Welcome to Whatif tutorials. In this tutorial we will be doing an overview of the project costing module. By projects we mean any activity which has a defined beginning and end, and during which activities are performed in a timeline. We'll be looking at the activities themselves and how they are added. We'll be looking at the costing of those activities and their timelines. First, let's go to the project's master file. Here's a project. What we are doing in the projects module is developing an estimated cost. This is an estimated cost broken down by activities, which we'll look at in a moment. Each activity is costed and each activity's cost is turned into a targeted sales value using targeted markups. So this is the targeted sales value applicable to that cost. Let's have a look at our activities. Each line here is an activity for that project. The top line is the total cost of that project, and below it are the activities in order that you create them. By header, then activities within header, I should say detail activities within header, another header, more detail activities. So you can build this structure any way you like. Once having created activities, you can move them. That is, detail activities can be moved from one header to another so that you have a flexibility in how this is structured. Now, the activities consist of materials cost, labour, overhead, subcontract and other costs. Materials costs consist of items from the cost master file, configured items, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment, and just value items which are not from the costing module but are developed here as identifiable and classifiable material costs. So those are added to this bill of materials here to give a total materials cost for the activity. Labour costs consist of operations, and these can be either an operation which is driven by cost drivers, so that we have driver quantities and we have the hours required per driver unit, and then we apply our labour rates and our overhead cost rates to get our total labour and overhead costs. So we have labour and overheads here, labour, overhead. In addition to operations, we can add shifts. Now by shifts we mean we can add the cost of a shift for as many weeks over the timeline of these activities as we require. So that's labour and overhead. Subcontract and others, similarly we can add subcontract items selected by supplier and class, and we can add the operation details here with and the cost per driver, and so we can build up our subcontract and other costs. Finally, configured items. In the bill of materials there were configured items which you could add, but first you must create them. And configured items are items which are made in a factory within the costing module and then developed or configured to be exactly as required in terms of dimensions and so on, and brought into here, added in, configured, costed, and then brought into a bill of materials by way of adding a configured item. So that is a very useful feature of the project's costing module, in that you can not only develop your cost of materials used on site, but you can also bring in items which have been manufactured off-site to customer or to project requirements. So that's the costing of the activities. We can follow up these projects just as we follow up quotes, and we have a range of reports, a whole range of reports and selection criteria here, just as we have for product quotes and job quotes. So that concludes the overview of the projects module.